Hello and welcome to the Star Citizen July monthly recap. This is a series that I do at the end of every month to give you a quick rundown of what's been going on in the world of Star Citizen. So if you're someone who wants to keep up with the development, but maybe you're not interested in looking into everything from day to day or week to week, this series is for you. Alright, so without further ado, let's get right into the content, starting off at the beginning of July with the monthly report. Now I want to remind folks that the monthly report is a very long document. I'm only drawing out just a couple of things here that I think might interest folks. So starting off with vehicles, we have the Tumbril Storm, which is actually nearing completion. Hopefully we'll see it in the next patch or two. Moving on, we have the Sun Takyai, which is awaiting its second gray box review. If you didn't watch ISE a couple of weeks ago, basically it unfortunately failed its first gray box review because of its dashboard. Its dashboard has now been reworked, and hopefully we'll see it pass and get to us relatively soon. So now moving over to the actor feature team, they have been working on wear and tear on weapons. So basically, if you fire your weapon and it gets super dirty or gets worn down, it's going to have a higher chance of misfiring, jamming, or even overheating. This is part of a larger refactor that we've been seeing in previous monthly reports where they've been kind of changing how weapons are handling and just making them a little more intricate. They're also working, which I think is very nice, on a new first-person view for inventory so you can quickly loot items. Kind of think this maybe should have come with the inventory system because sometimes it can be a pain to get into that third-person mode, but hey, I'm glad it's coming after all. So moving over to the feature teams, they're working on vehicle tractor beams, and the Argo SRV has finally successfully towed its first vehicle, which is pretty exciting, especially for people interested in that more repair, refuel, restock, rescuing ships, or maybe just soft deathing a ship and pulling it out of the way. So the team also worked on the resource network, and they seem pretty happy where it is right now, so they're actually moving on to engineering and life support. The way I see it, resource network is like the infrastructure, and then they use that to build out specific features like engineering and life support. So that's cool to see. Don't know, again, when we're going to see that, but it's nice to see it being worked on. Moving over to the mission teams, they're focusing more on cargo and pyro-based missions, which is interesting to me. On the cargo side, they're developing cargo hauling and ship piracy missions, and they're using the new cargo grids that they currently have in 3.18, as well as the upcoming freight elevator features. I think it's cool that cargo hauling is getting its own specific feature. Right now, it's kind of vague on how to do it, and I think it'll be nice for people to just get into the verse and take some missions and continue on. So they're also making it so that specific factions use specific ships. So for example, in lore, criminals should not be using the Cutlass Blue. Whether that's true when it comes to PvP, we'll have to see. But anyway, moving on, they also worked on design documents on reputation, so gaining, losing reputation factions and making that more meaningful in the game, which is great because in my opinion, they kind of dropped the ball a little bit on getting that in a timely manner. So moving on, they've also been working on different mission types that we've heard about before, from ship escort to data heist, and of course, the retrieve consignment missions that they talked about recently. Finally, they worked on ledge grab feature, which I think probably relates to the Squadron 42 features they showed off at last CitisCon. Now that's everything I've really pulled out of this month's monthly report. It wasn't super exciting, but again, there is a lot in there. I didn't talk about anything about engines or graphics, so if you are interested, you can always find these reference links in the description below. Moving on, they did have a free fly. This is pretty common. I've noticed CIG generally likes having a free fly every other month. And we're going to move right into the roadmap update. So we are getting Seraphim Station, which is the replacement for Port Olisar, giving us a place to actually respawn, and also updating certain things that are to come. For example, they mentioned that there's going to be new pads for Bounty Hunting V2. Hopefully we'll hear about that shortly. We're also getting new Crusader platforms. Basically, similar to how there are outposts on other planets, we're now getting those around Crusader as like resorts and hotels. Although unfortunately that isn't coming for 3.20, that's coming for a 3.20 X patch, so like 3.21 or 3.22, we're not entirely sure yet. 3.20.1. We're also getting the A1 Spirit from the Spirit series in a 3.20.x patch. It seems like following the monthly reports, they focused on getting the A1 first done, which is the bombing variant. Not entirely sure why, but that just seems to be what they've been going with. So we're also, for 3.20, getting physicalized cargo updates. This isn't as exciting as it sounds. It basically just makes it so the Hull C can be functional, and also giving us containers up to 32 SCU. So hopefully this means that when you're buying a lot of cargo, it starts generating bigger boxes instead of, you having like 50 small boxes, and if you get pirated, then you have to, reclaim all those 50 small boxes. So that's pretty cool. On the progress tracker side, we actually got some interesting stuff, including some new missions added, which is steal evidence, cargo hauling, which we heard about. The steal recover cargo, also heard about in the previous monthly report. And then repair contracts, which we heard about, I think, a couple month reports ago. This is basically, there's a damaged or destroyed ship, and you have to go in, replace its components, heal it with FPS repair, so I'm actually looking forward to this one. I think this is like a engineer -1 almost. So we're also, and this was mentioned in the month reports, getting reputations for shop discounts, hostility, and sandbox reputation. What that means is that if you increase your reputation with a certain faction, you'll get discounts in shops associated with them. And also, different factions will be hostile to you based on your reputation. And this includes with sandbox events. So you don't just increase or decrease reputation using missions. You can just, if you go out and fight a different faction without a contract, you can increase or decrease your reputation. So hopefully this means that you can actually properly ally with the Ninetales, and when dynamic events happen, you can actually side with Xenothreat. So I think that's pretty cool. That's everything really for the monthly report. We have pretty much wrapped up everything for 320. It's a pretty small persistent universe patch, but there is still a lot of stuff that has been confirmed for Arena Commander. So if you're looking for a lot of expansion in the persistent universe, I'd check back for the Q4 patch. But if you are interested in Arena Commander, I'd maybe check 3.20 out when it comes out. So moving on to some more news. Turbulent has joined CIG, and CIG is now at over 1,100 employees. If you don't know who Turbulent is, they have helped CIG since pretty much the start, helping them with the website and everything like that, and then slowly expanding into creating mission teams and feature teams, and even recently a ship team. So Turbulent joining CIG fully is pretty good, especially because they're probably wasn't very likely, but there's always that small risk that they could have been bought out by a different company, so it's good to see that. We got some CitizenCon news that Fighter Flight from Atmo Esports is coming. If you don't know what that is, Atmo Esports is basically an unofficial esports event for Star Citizen. They handle a lot of things like Fighter Flight or things like the Daymar Rally, which is super cool. So this is a 2v2 dogfighting tournament, and it's starting on August 19th. And it's going to be going through, and the top 4 teams are going to be participating at CitizenCon with other Star Citizen creators. Now, unfortunately, if you are watching this video now, the signups closed on July 21st, but it might be interesting to check out the event on August 19th. And finally, a couple more news. CIG, for whatever reason, have started doing mission spotlights, which they have done on the Arlington Bounty. If you don't know what that is, it's essentially a mission where you take on an enemy Idris after a couple of contracts. It's also clear that it was an excuse to make additional ship sales. And finally, we had the return of ISC, Inside Star Citizen, with prototype for hull munching. This was an okay episode. It mostly just showed how exactly they go along the process of designing a feature and how useful it is to prototype things out. So we saw they had a way they want to do hull munching. It doesn't entirely look like it's going to work, so they're going to have to go back to the drawing board because there's a lot of things to still think about. That's pretty much it. So I don't usually go over Star Citizen Lives because there's just a mishmash of information. I'm trying to keep it short and sweet for you. So anyway, if you want to check more of this stuff out, I'm going to have links in the description, and there's always opportunities for you to go out, watch the ISCs yourself, watch the SCLs yourself. But if you enjoyed this content, make sure to like, subscribe, leave a comment if you really want to, and I'll see you next month.